Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to RRR, Ryan's Real Reactions, and today we're jumping back into the JonBenet Ramsey case, the rabbit hole that I opened up last week on the channel, and this one is all about her brother Burke. This video is titled Body Language Analyst Reacts to Burke Ramsey's Eerie Body Language. This is from the YouTube channel Observe, which is what we're going to do right now. Here we go.
But for now, let's start the analysis.
Here he is. There's Burke.
When you look back, was Christmas like a really big deal at your house?
Yeah. Decorations in the yard.
I'm going to tell you what I'm looking for right now. This is a generic question. There's not a lot of weight behind it, so I am using this portion of the interview to establish what little baseline, nonverbal baseline I can of Burke. And for those of you who are watching and are new to nonverbal communication, if you don't establish a baseline, the read itself will become far less accurate as you're starting to rely on generalities rather than specific nonverbal patterns. So I am looking for an established baseline for Burke during this, but it is still very, very limited because there's very little footage of Burke interacting on a day-to-day basis that would allow me to have an established and reliable
apparently
baseline.
After everything happened, I read that like Burke pretty much kind of went into hiding for like it was like the first time that they even heard from him in like 20 years. I don't think this did him any justice, though, with all of the comments about him smiling and laughing and stuff like that, and maybe he should have just continued hiding. But yeah, there are a lot of people that think Burke did, in fact, kill his little sister, JonBenet.
Fine. But this entire portion is going to be talking about his baseline, seeing how he acts on average questions so that we can compare it to how he acts on more intense or pointed questions.
On the inside, my parents would throw a party every year.
Hello, I'm Patsy Ramsey. Daddy's not here, but this is JonBenet. She's 4, Burke is 7, and we'd like to welcome you to our home and wish you a very Merry Christmas.
Now, 2 days before JonBenet was murdered, that was when the party was at your house, right?
Yeah.
And you had people tour the house?
I think there was like a Boulder home tour thing. Like, we weren't the only people that did it.
Right, they went house.
I'm going to talk about something that I see that pops up in Burke's nonverbal communication the entire time. And when he is recollecting, when he's recollecting a genuine event, an actual memory, he consistently looks off to the side in this general area. That is his area of recollection. And he also has a slight squint to his eyes, which means that it is genuine recollection. That's important to note because if that pops up any other time, then we know he's genuinely recollecting. Whereas if there's a variance to that...
Tell you what, these people are good, man. They know things about people that people don't even know about themselves, man. I'm sure Burke probably don't even know this about himself.
That could be a sign of a fabricated memory, aka a possible lie.
I tried to find a video with Dr. G because you know I love Dr. G, but I couldn't on this case, so here we are with Observe. Cool background, though. He's got Emma Watson next to Albert Einstein, next to Martin Luther King. What a trio.
But that note, that pattern that we have made here is important to keep track of throughout the rest of the video. Also, a certain dynamic that I want to point out here that just starts to leak into my field of view, so to speak, is back here when Patsy is introducing Burke and JonBenet. You can see the favoritism that already shows up in her body language as she pays more attention to JonBenet, and Burke is a side thought.
That was my initial thought with this whole case. I was like, you know, it almost seems like JonBenet was the golden child, the youngest, the pageant queen, you know, taking time away. And will we ever really know who did it? Probably not. We'll never maybe have a real answer. But, you know, just putting pieces together, would it be far-fetched to say that Burke was jealous of that and something happened? I don't think that would be outrageous. But, yeah, you can even just see where everyone's positioned. Like, he's positioned off to the side. It's minor, but the fact that, like, you know, you could tell that Patsy set this up on purpose.
That dynamic is really important, and I'll get to that later on.
The house.
Yeah.
Looked at all the decorations. So When do you guys open gifts? That Christmas Eve or Christmas morning?
Christmas morning.
Do you remember what you did that morning?
I remember peeking down, and I remember seeing like an electric train and a bike, and I was super excited.
Was JonBenet with you?
I'm going to talk about something that everybody has noticed, and it's one of the reasons that this specific interview has been so
The smiling.
highly requested for me to view, and that's this smile that Burke has on his face. This smile stays consistent throughout the entirety of the video except for maybe a few instances. But this consistent smile, this expression, remains on his face throughout the entirety of the video. And many people find that extremely unsettling, especially when it gets to more of the gruesome aspects of the case and the questions therein. He maintains this smile. I'll talk about why that smile is there in a little bit. For now, let's keep establishing this baseline.
Like, I could understand, and it would be fine, you know, reminiscing Christmas morning and stuff. But I would like to see what he has to say about why he would be smiling talking about his sister hit and her murder, because then to me it's a little bit harder to explain there. Sometimes I see DrPhil and I forget that DrPhil is like a real person. I've seen him on so many memes and just compilations and parodies and people parodying him. I just forget that DrPhil is a real man. Whenever I see him, I just think of the open the door or I'm going to throw rocks in your window.
Yeah.
Did she peek too?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Did you get what you had asked for that year?
Nintendo 64.
And what did JonBenet
Nice.
get?
I think she got a big dollhouse.
Something that I want to point out about
N64 is a fire gift.
Burke's tone is that when he's recollecting and unsure about something, his tone increases in both fragility and also pitch. So that is an indicator of a lack of confidence. So when he is not certain about something, those two tells are going to be prevalent in those instances. So if we see that specific tonal pattern pop up later on in an area where he's trying to sound very, very authoritative or confident in what he's saying, then we can understand that he is not actually feeling that confident. And that's the little blip that we had to work with. After this, the interview really started hitting hard with heavier questions. And so our baseline that we have for Burke, the very, very small one that we can have, is one, the smile is always there. It always seems to be there, but it's...
I'm telling you, he kind of looks like someone that would play like a villain son in like Game of Thrones. Like if Joffrey had an older brother with brown hair.
forced. That's important to know, and I'll talk about, like I said, a little bit later. And then also, when he's recollecting, he looks off to the side in the same way every single time. So if we see a variant from that, it's a red flag. Along with that, his uncertainty tells are an increased pitch level and fragility in tone. These are all...
Every time he's saying fragility, I keep thinking he's saying fertility, and I'm thinking, what is him and, you know, trying to have a child have to do with this?
all things that we can keep track of as we continue on in the read, because they can be more or less open doors for us to understand what Burke's mental processing is throughout the entirety of this video.
You're 9 years old and your mother comes in the room in seemingly the middle of the night because it's dark and says, "Where's my baby? Where's my baby?" And then runs out of the room and you just lay there, as opposed to getting up and going out and saying, "What's going on?" And then a police officer comes in your room, which I assume is the first time in your entire life that a police officer has come in your room with a flashlight looking around, and you still just stay in bed.
Now, I will say, to defend that, when you're 9 years old, we've all been 9 years old, the bed and like being under the covers is kind of like a safe space. So yeah, there's part of me that's like, oh, why didn't he run down? And but you know, you're 9 years old. It could be a trauma response. You're scared. You don't know what's going on. You know, it's hard to say.
To be fair, I didn't know it was a police officer. It's just kind of...
But somebody comes in your room with a flashlight, and you never get up and say, "What is going on here?"
I guess
Well, I mean, I don't know if a 9-year-old would. What in tarnation?
I kind of like to avoid conflict, or I don't know. I guess I just felt safer there.
Were you curious?
Okay, so right off the bat, let's talk about a few things that are popping up. First, Burke has some extraneous fidgeting, common in nerves, not going to be really focusing on those. So the finger fidgeting and some of the hand fidgeting that you'll see, there's also times where he shifts his position. These are all tells of nerves and would be expected in just about any nationally televised interview. No big deal. The things that are really interesting to me is that, one, he still keeps that grin, that smile across his entire face pretty consistently. Earlier on, there's not as much, and then as his nervousness ramps up, as the pressure ramps up, so does this.
He does look incredibly happy. Like, for me, like okay. This, to me, is a nervous laugh or a nervous smile. Right? Like that. Like, yeah. You know, like, that's a nervous smile. But when you're like, and then it's like, I don't know. Like, it's hard to say. He certainly looks pretty happy. And maybe, you know, maybe he likes DrPhil. Like, maybe he's stoked and shocked that he's in front of DrPhil. Like, I'm not even trying to make a joke, you know? Like, maybe it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I don't know. But it is, it does, like, it, to me, it doesn't come across. Did I say crumb across? It doesn't come across as just like a quick, nervous laugh.
Expression. This expression of perhaps joy. It's not joy. I will let you know that. It's not joy. But this expression pops up more and more frequently. And while he's recalling, he still has the tonal tells that indicate that he's not completely confident in the words he's saying. Now, is that because it's 20 years ago and he's remembering a very long time ago? Or is it because the events that he's recollecting are not genuinely the events that happened? I promise I am going to get to that smirk, that smile, and the reason for it, but it is going to be later on in the video because I feel like it's more important to
We're not going nowhere, buddy. You got it.
cover it later than early on.
I'm not the worry type. I'm not the, I guess part of me doesn't want to know what's going on.
Critics would say you weren't curious because you already knew. He didn't have to get up and go check because he knew exactly what had happened.
Damn, Phil asking the hard-hitting questions.
I was scared, I think. I mean, I didn't know if there's some bad guy downstairs that my dad was chasing off with a gun or, you know, I had no idea.
So again, that tonal variance comes in. I had no idea. And people are suspect of Burke's actions. And to be very, very valid, Burke's actions in this situation are strange, and I do believe that there's a specific reason for why that is. Let's keep watching throughout this so we can see and continue fleshing out this nonverbal character sketch as to who Burke Ramsey is and whether or not he's guilty.
Were you scared for JonBenet yet?
I think I was trying to be positive.
So this one was just a little blip because DrPhil asked an important question. Were you scared for JonBenet? And he says, I think I was trying to be positive, which in essence is answering the question, no, I was not scared for JonBenet. I wasn't. I was trying to be positive. I think I was trying to be positive. There's not any verbal confidence in that, so I have no confidence in that. What I am getting and what I am confident in is that he was not scared for JonBenet, and there's a reason for that.
The next thing I remember is going to another one of our friends' houses. Everyone was really sad over there. My dad came and told me, JonBenet's in heaven now, and he started crying. And then I started crying.
A few things that I want to point out non-verbally is, once again, this intensified grin, smile, expression.
I mean, dude, it's tough. It's like, I try really hard to play devil's advocate. I don't like believing that a 9-year-old killed his young sister, right? I don't like believing that. Neither do you. But somebody did. And I just strongly believe it was someone in that family. So it's like, the parents didn't do it. You know, then was it Burke? The flashlight theory that was talked about in Kendall Ray's video that I watched last week. The fact that like he hit her over the head with a flashlight. It wouldn't be shocking.
Of joy on his face throughout the entirety of this more or less tragic recollection. People are wondering, why is this so disconnected? And I'll go ahead and talk about that right now because it shows up throughout the entirety of this interview, and I might as well get this out of the way right away. This smile is not duping delight. It's not joy, and it's not happiness. It's forced. It's a forced expression. If you look, his smile stays the same. His expression stays the same, except for he's talking and moving around, but the expression itself stays the same. Now, emotions do not last that long. Emotions last a very short amount of time, and his expression...
I believe a guy who looks like he's written a book in the top left corner or read a book called Emotions Revealed. So I'm gonna believe you on what you say here.
Is staying consistent. And what this means to me is that this is not an expression of joy, happiness, or duping delight, because all of those would be a much shorter expression. This is a defense mechanism that Burke has. His nervousness is pushing him to force this odd smiling expression throughout the entirety of this interview.
There's also a part of me that it almost seems like he's behaving, even in this interview, kind of like a child. Just like the way he's speaking and the way he's saying things, and like, I don't know, it almost feels kind of childlike in a sense, you know?
So when you see this smile, I know it feels off. It feels wrong to me.
I mean, it certainly is creepy, at the very least. And it's a shame that, look, if Burke is innocent, did absolutely nothing, then it sucks. But the fact that we'll never really know also kind of sucks, because of course you're going to try to figure it out. But it is at the very least very creepy. Like, I am creeped out watching this, to be completely honest with you.
You feel like he should be frowning or crying or showing distress on his face, but instead he's grinning like he's talking about some really cool hobby of his that he really enjoys, where in realistic terms he's talking about the death of his sister, so you feel like that's wrong.
Right.
And I understand, but non-verbally speaking and psychologically speaking, that specific display, that display of a grin, especially in times of morbid circumstances, is neither unheard of, nor is it uncommon. People will often laugh in times of pain and suffering, and likewise, they will smile in times of nervousness. So this is Burke's display of intense nerves.
I guess he's just really good at displaying his nerves, I'll just say that. Also, we got Jennifer Lawrence back there just looking real upset. What happened, J-Law?
All the way throughout this interview, he's extremely nervous. So when you see it throughout the rest of this interview, it's more or less having to be disrespectful.
He hasn't done an interview in 20 years. I do understand. It's like, oh, and now you're on TV, and now here's DrPhil. I understand. Like, I do. As a human being, I get it.
Regarded. Now, keep in mind that there can be variances from it. There can be nonverbal spikes from that specific little concept, that baseline tell of nerves that we've established. It can vary. And during those moments, it's important to note it. But for the rest of it, even when you really feel like, he should be sad looking right now, you can't, because his nerves are overriding his other emotions right now. And it's showing via a smile. So I'm very sorry if you saw this and you saw him smile and you were like, he's guilty. That's not enough right now. It's simply not enough.
I think that's a fair take. You can't like just prosecute someone based off the fact that they're smiling in an interview. I think that's a very logical, mature take. It's easier said than done to point the finger and be like, yep, he did it. It was him. He's smiling. But the mature thing to do would be looking at all of the aspects and trying to figure out, go into a little bit deeper here.
How did you feel seeing her?
A lot of sadness. I don't think I really fully grasped, like, after this, I won't see her again.
I don't believe that he felt that at all. He said a lot of sadness and he avoids eye contact. There's nervous fidgeting off to the side, which is still part of his pattern of nerves just due to the interview. But long story short, I simply don't buy it right now. And there's not enough solid evidence for me to say for sure that he wasn't sad, but he doesn't display any nonverbal affirmative actions for that. So I'm making a note of that and I'll keep track of it. And if there's anything that goes against that later on, then I'll have to change this. I just have to, because that's how scientific method works. You discover new data and you change what you have to fit the new data. So let's keep watching.
Are you aware of these different theories that are out there? Theories that you killed your sister, theories that your mother killed JonBenet, and theories that an intruder killed JonBenet. Those seem to be
a little bit of frustration that's showing that he's heard these theories and he's
Kind of looks like Elijah Wood right here.
frustrated by them. He's also looking down, more or less averting his eyes from DrPhil, and this can also be seen as an expression of shame. So the chances are he's both heard them, he's frustrated by them, and he's ashamed of those theories as well. That's what his body language is telling me, and that's likely how his train of thought is flowing from what I see non-verbally.
the three camps that people talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I know that we were suspects. I didn't know they were camps, I guess.
He has his continual smile. It's still there. It's still prevalent, but he showed no other nonverbal misalignment. And that means that he's telling the truth, more or less, in this part. He has been aware of the theories, and he didn't know that there were camps or whatever. This is just showing that we have a decent idea as to the authenticity tells of Burke at this point, but we'd still need to gather more data for this.
Looks like DrPhil fell asleep in this screenshot.
Does that look like her handwriting?
Oh wow! Damn, he's DrPhil doing the real investigative journalism here.
Honestly, looking at that, she would always bug me about having good handwriting, and she would
Like, what did you think Burke was going to say after 20 years? Yeah, that's my mom's handwriting. Oops. Whoops. Like, either way, like, let's say the mom did it. Let's say the dad did it. He's not ever going to say anything. Let's say he did it. Why would he say anything on an interview?
make me rewrite stuff to try to get me to have good handwriting, and I think it's
Look, DrPhil's pissed. He's like, no, just admit it. I want a breakthrough here.
too sloppy.
So during this portion, this is about the ransom note. The ransom note that was left in the Ramsey household in regards to JonBenet was 2.5 pages, but 3 pages long. A very long ransom note. I went and I did a lot of research to see what was the average length of a ransom note. Just more or less, what's the average length? Now, obviously, there's no template, but from what I found on the average of them, they're most of the time very short, under a page.
Once again, I really feel like there's just no way that someone's going to break into a house and then just be like, you know what? Now that I'm here, let's write a little graphic novel while we're here. Let's start. Let's write a 3-page ransom note on their paper. Let's go find. It's like, no, that's something you have prepared, or it's like you scribble something real quick. It's like they were writing movie dialogue. It just doesn't make sense. Everything just seems so pre-planned.
Under a page. So to have a 3-page ransom note, that was odd.
Right.
You can go and watch my other video to see what I think around that, but I just find it odd that if there were an intruder, they took the time to find a pen and paper in the middle of the night after doing this terrible crime to write out a very long and personally detailed ransom note.
And there would have had been enough light to see everything. It was in the middle of the night. It's not like it was pitch black where they were writing things. So like someone would have broken. Imagine that, you know, Patsy or whatever comes downstairs and the intruder's like, oh, hold on, hold on. I'm almost done. She starts screaming. Like, no, hold on. Hey, I got another portion here.
That's 3
Like, come on now.
pages long in the middle of an adrenaline rush after doing an intense crime.
Right.
It just does not make
No
sense.
shot.
It's usually pretty straightforward. We have dot, we want dot. That's usually how it goes. But with this one, there's so much extra detail that doesn't need to be there. There's so many red herrings, odd word choices, and the handwriting is undeniably similar to Patsy's handwriting. I said before, I don't believe it was actually Patsy's handwriting, but it's undeniably similar to it. So with both John and Burke denying these similarities between that, that's suspicious to me.
Right. That's super weird. Why are you saying it looks nothing like her handwriting when there are so many similarities? It's like then it just feels. But then to me, it's like, why would the thing that makes me feel crazy is if it was Patsy that did this, why? It just doesn't add up. At least with Burke, there would be some sort of possible jealous older brother of the darling daughter, younger sister thing. But with Patsy, I just don't understand. This is such a confusing case, man.
Because you and I can see clearly that there are similarities. Also, during this time, DrPhil asks a specific question, does this look like your mother's handwriting? And Burke starts to have some positive spikes in his nonverbal communication in the form of nervous laughter consistently throughout his answer. He doesn't have this nervous laughter often, and it shows up in a large pile here. Along with that, he doesn't directly answer the question, and these sorts of tells push me to believe that he knows it looks similar, but he knows that he should not say that it does. So he tries to circumvent the question. He has nervous laughter, which is a spike in his nonverbal communication, and all of it lends me to believe that he knows it looks similar, but he won't say that it does.
And I mean, once again, you know, maybe he is protecting his family. She's not here anymore, Patsy. I guess doesn't want to drag any more things out. You know, if we're just saying that he is innocent and maybe he got lied to from his parents or something happened that they know of that he doesn't, and then of course this is the way he's going to be.
You cannot recall a time in your life that you ever saw your mother fly into a rage.
No.
Did you ever see her throw anything?
No.
Did you ever see her break anything in a fit of anger, smash anything down?
No.
Dishes, lamps?
No.
He's just going to keep going. She ever try to throw the fridge at you? No. A microwave? No. How about maybe a small oven? No. How about an easy bake oven? No, Phil. Okay, nowhere. How about a hammer? No.
Throw anything?
A wrench?
At your father?
No.
All right, so during this time, Burke's being genuine. His body language is synchronized. There's nothing that's sticking
Yeah, I believe him here. I believe that Patsy wasn't like this rageful woman
out to me as a possible red flag. Even the lip compression at the end is easily related to the negativity of the questioning itself. But his head shakes are all synchronized. He doesn't break eye contact in his way that he does when it's more suspicious. And he has none of the tonal variances that show his lack of confidence. During this time, Burke seems to be, non-verbally speaking, being genuine. I don't think Patsy was a violent person.
I agree.
I just don't believe she was. And Burke's nonverbal communication goes to show that further.
Did you feel left out of that, or was that okay with you?
No, it's totally fine. I mean, I spent a lot of time with my mom too.
Don't buy that part. And this is where I'm going to talk about that dynamic that I saw earlier. And then at the end of this
is the whole part that makes sense. Like we said, the whole golden child thing.
I'll talk about
there's going to be resentment there.
About how it all plays in together. DrPhil asks Burke, were you jealous of the attention that JonBenet got? And Burke answers in something that sounds not only hollow, but also the verbiage of it itself really indicates the true emotion of it. So DrPhil says, are you jealous, more or less? And Burke shakes his head and says, it's totally fine. I got to spend time with mom too, you know. He has his nervous laugh in there. And that indicates to me that he wasn't totally fine with it.
Right.
He just wasn't. And very rarely are kids totally fine with one child getting more attention and more preferable treatment than themselves. It's very rare. So when Burke is saying, no, it was totally fine, I don't buy that. His body language doesn't lend me to buy that either. My theory, from what I can see so far, is that Burke did not like JonBenet's specific amount of attention that she got. He also didn't like JonBenet herself very much.
Wow, that's a pretty big statement. This guy's been very straightforward so far and hasn't tried to throw anyone under the bus. So for him to say that is a pretty big deal.
There are many instances of Burke's lashing out at JonBenet, going so far as to even hit her in the face with a golf club out of anger.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's pretty crazy. So that whole flashlight thing is not shocking here. I really do believe that's what happened. I'm sorry, but I do. I really believe that is it. And then they tried to just cover it up and make it look like something happened so that they didn't lose both children. But I still am like, how come if she wasn't pronounced dead until later, how come they didn't at least try to save her life? I don't know.
He often smeared feces in JonBenet's bed.
I'm sorry, what? What is this, Amber Heard? No, but seriously, what? He often... Hold on. Excuse me?
Golf club out of anger. He often smeared feces in JonBenet's bed.
Okay, often, number one, is crazy because that means multiple times, many times. That is not the behavior of like an 8 or 9-year-old. I'm sorry, that's just not. That is full resentment. That is really wild stuff to hear.
And there is this history of hostility between Burke and JonBenet, and I feel that this is entirely the fault of John and Patsy Ramsey for showing clear and evident favoritism between the two. And
right.
I will tell you why that's important later on.
Who the hell's that?
Both say there was a voice at the end of the 911 call, and that your voice was heard saying, "What
was that John?
Did you find?" Did you speak those words?
No.
Were you there when that call
Would a 9-year-old, though, say, what did you find? I mean, maybe. It's not like 9-year-olds are dumb or anything, but, you know, that almost feels like something an adult would say.
was made?
No.
So you were not there, and you did not speak those words.
He is avoiding eye contact a little bit. Squirrely eyes.
That's correct.
See, he's kind of like, yeah.
That part I don't believe as much, and it's largely to do with his eye contact. Now,
Yep.
I need to make something super clear to you. The eye contact thing with lying is not a universal thing.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's maintaining eye contact, if somebody's looking all over the room, that's not a universal thing. It's not like, oh, if they're looking everywhere but your eyes, they're lying, or if they're only looking in your eyes, they're lying. It's specific from person to person. From what I'm seeing with Burke, he maintains eye contact during points of authenticity. That is his tell, his specific...
Yeah, like when he was talking about his mom not being violent, like he was very like, because he was sure of it.
Verbal tell. But when he has instances like these, where he's asked very pointed questions, and his authentic tell is to maintain eye contact, my question is, why is he looking all over the room, looking down, looking away, and not looking at DrPhil during this moment? If he's being honest,
right,
and he has shown that he has the proclivity and the potential to...
Proclivity? What the hell's that mean?
Maintain eye contact during stressful and intense questioning, why is it now that he's not? And chances are is that he's not telling the truth here. Now, this isn't enough to say that he's not telling the truth. I'm not actually sure if he was there or on that recording, but I am pushed towards him being there and on that recording, just based off of his nonverbal communication. But we'll talk a little bit more a little bit later.
DrPhil's asleep again.
So you can say with absolute certainty that is not your voice on that 911 tape.
Absolutely not.
Still not making eye contact, and absolutely not is another one of those verbal patternings like the, oh, it's totally fine. It's over the top. It's not needed, but it's still implemented in there because Burke feels that he has to convince DrPhil of this, which can be said for his innocence. If he was innocent and he wasn't there, then he needs to convince DrPhil because he indeed was innocent. But if he's lying, he still has that need to convince DrPhil because he wants the lie to be bought.
Right.
And with his eyes being turned down the way they are, and we know more often than not he will hold eye contact during authentic conversation and responses.
You think that Burke Ramsey has ever watched a video like this and is like, damn, man, I was really slipping.
Then that lends me once again to believe that that might not have been true. Is it enough evidence? By all means, no. But that is the direction that I'm being pushed.
I agree.
You went to see a child psychologist. Do you recall that?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's an important thing just to note in Burke's character. So DrPhil says you went and saw a child psychologist, correct? And Burke flashes a very telling expression of contempt. Now, contempt shows up when a person is feeling like they are morally or intellectually superior to the concept, the discussion, or the person they're talking to, or about, so on and so forth. And Burke shows that in relation to the child psychologist, he feels intellectually or morally superior to that entire concept. The child psychologists themselves, maybe, the idea of going and seeing a child psychologist, he feels like he was above that. That usually is an indicator of the person having more information. When somebody flashes contempt, they have more information on it. So when Burke is flashing this contempt about the child psychologist, he knows something else that we don't know. That's what we can get from that. That's important, and I'll tell you why in just, I swear, it's just a tiny minute. This little video clip is almost done.
Did you
We're not going nowhere, man. Don't stress about it.
hit your sister over the head with a baseball bat or a flashlight?
Yeah, what do you think he's going to say here? Do you know what, Dr. Phil? May I call you Phil? May I call you Philip? Yes, I did.
Absolutely not.
So during this part, very important question, right? He's asked if he more or less
And he knew that Dr. Phil was going to ask that question, obviously.
did the crime himself to JonBenet. And he shakes his head and says, absolutely not, looks away. So we have some conflict here. On one hand, his body language is synchronized with the no and the no, the head shake and the no, but he also has his look away and the extra emphasis on the word absolutely. And those two have been shown to be signs of possible deceit in the past. Now, I don't believe that Burke did it. I'll tell you why in a second, but I do believe that there was
Interesting.
hostility from Burke towards JonBenet, so he doesn't feel the remorse that we'd expect to see, and that could be lending towards this nonverbal misalignment that we're seeing. There's one last little blip here, and then we're going to summarize.
If someone in your house did, do you think you would have heard it?
Probably. Yeah.
Ooh, that looked a little bit weird. Also, it's a 15-room house, so it's not like they lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment.
Nope. Nope, that's the important thing, and I believe that right there at the end, Burke lied.
Yeah.
And the reason that I believe that is because, one, the question's pretty straightforward. If somebody did that in your house, would you have heard them? Now, I don't know if you've seen pictures of the Ramsey house, but it's not small. It's really not small. And we know that Burke and JonBenet were upstairs because he recollected coming downstairs and looking downstairs to see the present. So he's upstairs. And JonBenet's body was found in the basement, the very bottom.
Yeah, in the wine cellar. You would not hear that.
Of the house. Now, I don't know if you live in a multi-story house, but there's a fact about multi-story houses that really pushes credibility away from Burke in this instance. You can hear many, many things from the basement from the floors above because it's on the floors, but it's harder to hear stuff from the basement on the floors above. So the fact that Burke is not only on the first floor, but he's actually on the second floor of a large house, and it was known that JonBenet was killed in the basement, there is no way that he could have heard that.
I agree.
There's just no way. Physically speaking, there's no way. Unless there was maybe a scream or something along those lines, but as far as the actual impact itself, could not be heard. Along with that, Burke's body language during this point doesn't give us any reason to believe him. He says that he probably could hear it, and then afterwards, he does a very strong lip compression, which lip compressions can indicate a person who has said something that they know that they shouldn't. And in this case,
Yeah, that's literally like a, I shouldn't have said that. I've seen that, before. People are like, sorry.
it would be a lie, because Burke knows that he couldn't hear it, and his nonverbal communication really affirmed that. So Burke has the proclivity to lie in
There's that word again, man. We got to start using smaller words here, brother.
this. Now comes the part where we're going to talk about my interpretation and my opinion of the case and the theory I have. My theory still stands that John did it. I still
Wow, he thinks John did it.
believe that John was the culprit.
I mean, I just started watching this, but to me, I immediately, it was somebody in that house, and there was only 3 people that could have did it. Burke, Patsy, John. To me, that's it. There was no intruder.
There's a few reasons and I'm going to talk a little bit about the family dynamic of the Ramseys, specifically in relation to JonBenet and Burke and the parents. So, John Ramsey, the father, he came from a military family. In military families, discipline is very, very common. It's more common to see discipline in a military family than it is to not. Is that a hard-cut rule? No. But it is a generality that has some evidence to back it up. So if we take that information, knowing that John came from a military family, he appreciated discipline, likely. Also, he was the owner of a company, a CEO, and as we have seen in his video, emotionally distant. Even Patsy had enough issue with it that it became a conflict in their marriage that John was so emotionally distant. I feel like that was a theme. Not only was John a disciplinarian, but he was emotionally distant. So his relationship to his kids was not as strong. That left Patsy Ramsey. Now, Patsy Ramsey was put in a tough position because she now really has the pressure of not playing favorites with her kids. Because John's out of the picture because he's a detached businessman, so Patsy Ramsey has to fill both shoes. And she should have treated JonBenet and Burke equally. We know that's not true. Not only is there the small little tiny take it with a grain of salt evidence that we saw at the beginning with the specific concentration on JonBenet that Patsy showed in the Christmas side. And
it seems like Patsy was trying to be super mom and juggle so many different things, you know, where you could almost say that John was like a deadbeat dad, but like a rich deadbeat, where it's like they had a beautiful home and all these things, but was he really there? No.
Off-putting side for Burke. But then JonBenet was involved in pageantry. So was Patsy. Patsy was always working with and traveling with and being involved with JonBenet. Where did that leave Burke? More or less without attention from either parent. Not from his distant father and not from his mother who doted upon her daughter, on JonBenet. And when a child is secluded so intensely in their own family, hostility is not only common, but almost expected.
Right.
And that showed up. We saw physical evidence. We know that Burke had hostility towards JonBenet.
My question, if it was John that did it, are we then saying that Patsy didn't know and just believes that it was an intruder, or believed him lying, or did she cover for him? Because wouldn't you still, like, you know, immediately just snitch on your husband and divorce him and put him in jail if he killed your daughter, you know?
Also had some aggression issues. He had some behavioral complications, and that was often directed at JonBenet. And my reasoning is that Burke had no interest in his sister. He was bitter towards her.
Right.
And many of us could understand why. He was bitter of his younger sister, who got all of the attention from Patsy, which was all of the parental attention that there was to have because John was so detached. So Burke did not care what happened to JonBenet. So during these times where we're seeing this lack of empathy, this lack of care, it's not because Burke was a murderer. I still don't think he was. He doesn't fit the type. He could have, absolutely, he could have, and it could have been a cover-up from both the parents on Burke's behalf. It could be that. I don't believe it's so. I do believe that Burke did not care that JonBenet was gone. He even showed later on in his...
I mean, that's a fair take.
His psychological evaluation.
Even in the interview, it didn't seem like he really cared talking about her or like highlighting memories really about her. It's not like he went on any tangents or any things or any whatever. It just like he had to answer questions that DrPhil was saying.
When he was a child, that he had more or less put JonBenet out of sight, out of mind, within 2 weeks of JonBenet being announced dead. 2 weeks. He did not care that JonBenet was where she was. He did not care that she was dead. He did not like JonBenet. So when you're watching Burke and you see his smile and you see his detachment, if you understand the family dynamic behind that, the possibility of Burke being a neglected child in this family and having everything doted upon, attention, time, effort, energy being doted upon JonBenet, because JonBenet is so close to Patsy Ramsey when she was a girl that obviously Patsy's going to dedicate more time to JonBenet. If you look at it in that light, you soon see instead of a sick, twisted murderer of a person, you see a very wounded, neglected, and angry child.
I agree with that.
One who could not care less if his younger sister, who was the source of all of his jealousy and his...
It's like I said about Cindy Watts in my last video. I don't think she gave a care that Shanann was murdered by her son. I mean, by her son. I don't think she cared at all.
Anger.
I think she was just upset that he got caught and he had to go to jail for it. She lost her quote unquote baby.
Was gone. Now there's so much evidence that's around this case. There's so many fine details. There's so many dynamics that I would be able to spend years on this case, and I still feel would not have a concrete, beyond a shadow of a doubt, conclusion. There's all of these possibilities, and to be fair, they have a lot of validity to them. I'm not going to deny that. There are other theories that have a lot of validity. But this is what I've seen non-verbally, and this makes the most sense to me in their behavioral patterns. But let me know what you think. Like I said, there's evidence.
Oh, man. I feel like every time I'm going to watch a video about this, I'm just going to get more and more confused and frustrated. Because it just doesn't make any sense. I want to hear more about... I wish he kind of went into a little more detail, though, about why John would have did it. He brought up discipline, but, like... what does it have to do with ending the life of your daughter on Christmas, you know? All right. Well, hey, like the video before you go. If you got any hype points, use them. Leave some comments to help the video grow. And then, of course, subscribe to the channel. If you're not, please take a second to do that. Happy St. Patrick's Day. That's why I'm wearing my green today. A little Zelda shirt. I'm 50% Irish, so why not? I will, though, quickly, before I leave, grab my dog because it's his birthday tomorrow. And I don't post on Wednesdays, so we can say happy birthday to him real quick. Here he is. He's turning 11 tomorrow. Isn't that right? So you got to say happy birthday into the comments. For my baby. He's still a baby. He's still a baby. He's 11, but he was going to be 11, but he's a baby. All right, that is it for me here on Triple R. Shout out to the Triple Army for always reporting for duty. As always, please don't bother me while I'm watching true crime. I'll let Cooper do it this time. Peace out.